Amelia Carter sat on the edge of her bed that morning, her white rehearsal dress hanging neatly by the door. It was supposed to be one of the happiest days of her life, the day before her wedding, the day she would practice walking down the aisle toward the man she loved. Her phone rang, and when she saw her father's name, her heart warmed for a moment. She thought he might be calling to wish her well, maybe even to surprise her with some words of pride. Instead, his voice was flat, almost icy. "Amelia," Richard Carter said without pause, "don't bother coming home after the rehearsal. You're not welcome in my house anymore." The words hit her like a stone. She sat frozen, gripping the phone tightly. "What? Dad, what are you saying?" Her voice cracked, confusion rushing in. "You heard me," he replied, steady and sharp. "As long as you insist on marrying that man, Daniel Brooks, you've chosen your side. He's beneath you. He's nothing. And if you go through with this, then you're no daughter of mine." Amelia's throat tightened, but she forced herself to speak. "Dad, Daniel is good to me. He loves me. That should matter to you." Richard cut her off. "What matters is respect. You've disrespected this family by bringing in someone like him. I won't have it. Don't come back here. Not after tonight." The call ended before she could respond. The line went dead, leaving only silence, heavy and cruel. Amelia dropped the phone into her lap and pressed her hands against her face. The sting of tears blurred her vision. Her chest felt heavy, as if her father's rejection had torn something out of her. All her life, she had tried to be the daughter her parents could be proud of. She worked hard, gave them everything she could, never questioned their demands. And now, on the eve of her wedding, he had cast her out with nothing but a few cold words. Her heart pounded as she thought of Daniel. He had grown up with very little, but he had never hidden it, never pretended to be something he wasn't. He was kind, steady, and proud of what he had built on his own. But to her father, that was unforgivable, not because Daniel lacked character, but because he lacked wealth. Amelia whispered into the empty room, as if her father might still hear her. "Why isn't my happiness enough for you?" The silence answered back. She reached for the rehearsal dress again, her fingers trembling. This was supposed to be a joyful day, but instead, it was already stained with shame and rejection. She felt torn between two worlds. The family that had raised her but now pushed her away, and the man who loved her and wanted to build a new life with her. Her father's words echoed in her head like a curse. "You're not welcome anymore." And in that moment, Amelia understood that this was only the beginning, the start of a painful rift that would test not just her marriage, but her entire sense of self. Raised as the golden child, Amelia always carried the weight of her family on her shoulders. From the day she landed her first job in finance, she poured her salary into her parents' needs. When her father's business deals failed and the mortgage fell behind, it was Amelia who wrote the checks to keep the house safe. When the family's old car broke down, she surprised them with a brand new one. And when her younger brother Ethan dreamed of going to college, but there wasn't enough money, Amelia quietly paid the tuition bills without hesitation. Her father, Richard Carter, accepted all of it as if it were his right. He never asked Amelia if she could manage the payments or how it affected her own life. He simply expected her to take care of things. And she did, because she wanted to be loved, because she thought this was what daughters did. Her mother, Margaret, was gentle but silent. She rarely argued with Richard, rarely offered Amelia comfort when Richard's demands grew too heavy. Margaret would sigh and say, "You know how your father is," and then retreat, leaving Amelia alone to deal with the pressure. For years, Amelia told herself it was fine. She had a good job, she was capable, and she didn't mind giving. What she longed for, more than anything, was her father's approval, a sign that he was proud of her. Yet that acknowledgement never came. No matter how much she gave, Richard found ways to remind her that she was only doing her duty. Inside, Amelia felt trapped. She wanted to please her family, but it often came at the cost of her own happiness. She didn't buy things for herself, didn't take the vacations she dreamed of, didn't allow herself to live freely. Instead, she lived under a quiet hope. Maybe one day, they'll love me back the way I love them. Then she met Daniel Brooks. Daniel came from a world far different from Amelia's. He grew up with little, no luxury, no safety net, only a hard-working mother who taught him to value honesty and resilience. He admired Amelia's strength from the moment he met her. She was smart, successful, but also gentle in a way that made him want to protect her. To Daniel, Amelia was more than her career or her family obligations. She was someone who deserved to be cared for, not drained. And he noticed, quickly, how much her parents leaned on her. At first he kept quiet, but as their relationship grew more serious, he began to speak up. "Amelia," he would say, "you give too much. They don't see you, not really. They only see what you can provide." She would shake her head uneasy. "They're my family, Daniel. If I stop helping, I'll lose them. They'll push me away." He would take her hand, steady and calm. "If love is real, it shouldn't be bought. You can't keep paying for their affection. One day, it's going to break you." Those words stayed with her, though she never admitted it. Daniel was right, but fear held her back. She couldn't imagine a life where her father looked at her with disappointment or anger. She couldn't imagine being completely cut off. On the surface, Amelia's life looked perfect. She was a successful woman with a beautiful apartment, a thriving career, and an upcoming wedding to a man who adored her. Friends often told her she was lucky, that she had everything. But inside her world was fragile. Every piece of her family's comfort was built on her shoulders, and every decision she made had to balance between keeping them satisfied and keeping herself from falling apart. Her father's control stretched into everything, from the way she spent her money to the way she chose her partner. Margaret's silence and Ethan's entitlement made it worse. Amelia often felt like she wasn't a daughter or a sister at all, but more like the family's safety net, their private bank. Daniel's presence was both her comfort and her challenge. He was her safe place, the one who reminded her she deserved more, but he was also the reason her father's disapproval grew louder. Richard saw Daniel's modest background as a threat, not to Amelia's happiness, but to the Carter family's pride. Now, as the wedding approached, the tension between the life Amelia wanted and the life her family expected reached its breaking point. On paper, she had everything a woman could ask for. In truth, her family's love was tied to her wallet, and her father's grip on her choices threatened to tear her away from the only happiness she had found for herself. It was a fragile balance, and deep down, Amelia knew it couldn't last. Something would have to give. At the rehearsal dinner, the air should have been light and joyful. Friends and relatives had gathered in a cozy hall decorated with flowers and golden lights. Amelia smiled politely as people congratulated her and Daniel, but inside, she felt the weight of her father's cold silence. Richard Carter sat at the long table, his jaw tight, his eyes fixed on Daniel like he was an intruder instead of Amelia's future husband. When it was his turn to speak, Richard rose to his feet, holding a glass. Everyone turned to listen, expecting the proud words of a father celebrating his daughter's big day. Instead, his voice cut through the room like a blade. "I suppose I should say something about this occasion," he began. "My daughter has always been the star of this family. She's worked hard, achieved more than most people her age, and I've always expected her to choose someone worthy of her." He paused, his gaze landing on Daniel. "Unfortunately, that's not what happened. Instead, she has chosen a man who is nothing but a charity case." Gasps filled the room. Daniel stiffened in his seat, his hands curling into fists beneath the table. Amelia's face burned with shame and anger. "Dad, please," she started, but Richard raised his hand to silence her. "I will not pretend to be proud of this," Richard continued. "Daniel Brooks, you come from nothing, and you will bring nothing. My daughter deserves better. If she goes through with this wedding, then she is making a mistake. And let me be clear, if you marry him, Amelia, you are no longer my daughter. You will not step foot in my home again." The room grew tense and quiet. Margaret Carter sat frozen, her eyes darting between her husband and her daughter, but she said nothing. Ethan smirked faintly, enjoying the drama. Amelia's heart pounded in her chest. For years, she had held her tongue, given her father everything he wanted, endured his control without complaint. But this, humiliating Daniel, threatening to cast her out on the night before her wedding, was too much. Something inside her broke. She stood, her voice trembling at first but growing stronger with every word. "Enough, Dad. You've taken my money, my time, my peace of mind. I've done everything to make you proud, but I will not let you destroy the man I love. If I'm not welcome in this family as Daniel's wife, then maybe I'm not welcome at all." A heavy silence followed. No one moved. Richard's face darkened, his pride wounded by her defiance. He had always expected her to bend, to obey. He never imagined she would stand against him. Daniel reached for Amelia's hand under the table, his grip steady, grounding her in the storm. For the first time, Amelia felt the weight lift from her shoulders. She wasn't alone anymore. Richard's voice was cold. So be it. You've made your choice. Don't come back to me when you realize what a mistake you've made. Tears stung Amelia's eyes, but she held her head high. Maybe the mistake was believing your love depended on my obedience. The guests shifted uncomfortably, whispering among themselves. Some looked at Richard with disapproval, others at Amelia with sympathy. The atmosphere, once meant for celebration, had turned into a battlefield of pride and pain. As the dinner broke apart in uneasy silence, Amelia knew the fragile balance she had kept for years had finally shattered. There would be no going back. Her father had drawn the line, and for the first time in her life, she had chosen to step across it. She squeezed Daniel's hand and whispered almost to herself, "This is just the beginning." Amelia tries to reconcile after the rehearsal dinner fight. She tells herself maybe her father was just angry. Maybe he will calm down once the wedding is over. She calls him the next morning, her voice soft, almost pleading. "Dad, please, I don't want us to fight. I love you. Can we talk about this?" But Richard's reply is colder than before. "There's nothing to talk about. You've betrayed this family. You chose that man over us. Don't expect me to forgive you for throwing away everything I've given you." His words sting. He doesn't mention her years of sacrifices, the bills she paid, the way she carried the family's weight. In his mind, she has already crossed a line she can never return from. Soon after, the text messages begin. Long, bitter paragraphs about how ungrateful she is, how she has shamed the Carter name. "You've turned your back on us," one reads. "After all we've done for you. This is how you repay us?" Her mother, Margaret, calls too, her voice low and worried. "Amelia, sweetheart, can't you just apologize? Your father is upset. You know how he gets. Just make peace." Amelia closes her eyes, frustration filling her. "Mom, you never stand up for me. You always stand with him. I can't keep giving in. Don't you see how unfair this is?" Margaret sighs. "I just want the family to stay together. Please don't make things worse." But even in her begging, Amelia hears the same pattern. Her mother always asking her to bend, never Richard. Ethan is worse. One evening he storms into Amelia's apartment without knocking. "You're so selfish," he snaps. "Do you realize what you're doing to us? You're the one with money, Amelia. You owe us. You can't just cut us off because of some guy." "Oh, you?" Amelia asks, stunned. "I've paid for your tuition, your books, your rent. What more do you want from me?" Ethan sneers. "That's what family does. You're the successful one, so you carry us. That's how it works. Stop acting like a victim." His words echo in her mind long after he leaves. She wonders if her family ever saw her as a daughter at all, or just as their provider. Daniel notices her growing quiet, the way she avoids looking at her phone, the way she stares at the ceiling at night, lost in thought. One evening, he takes her hand and says gently, "Amelia, you need to face the truth. Check your accounts. Look at where the money has gone." She hesitates. Part of her doesn't want to know, but Daniel's steady gaze convinces her. Together, they sit at the dining table with her laptop and a stack of old statements. Amelia scrolls through the numbers, her hands trembling. At first, it looks normal. Payments for the mortgage, tuition fees, household expenses. But then Daniel points to irregularities. "Look here. These amounts don't match. And here." He said the mortgage was overdue by 6 months, but the bank only recorded 2. He exaggerated it. Amelia flips through more records, her chest tightening. She sees payments for emergencies that were never real, debts that were inflated, transfers that Richard insisted were for Ethan's schooling, but had nothing to do with the university. It hits her like a storm. For years, her father hadn't just relied on her generosity. He had manipulated it, twisting her sense of duty to keep control. The Carter household wasn't surviving because of hard work or sacrifice. It was surviving almost entirely on her income, hidden behind the excuse of family contribution. Her eyes fill with tears. "I thought I was helping them. I thought I was keeping us together." Daniel wraps his arms around her, his voice calm but firm. "You've been carrying them while they drained you. This isn't love, Amelia. This is control. The realization cuts deep. She remembers every time her father praised her as responsible or dutiful. None of it was about love. It was about what she could provide. When she tries again to talk to her parents, hoping they will admit the truth, she's met with more emotional blackmail. Richard's voice on the phone is sharp. So you've been digging through accounts? How dare you question me? Everything we've done for you, raising you, giving you a name, and this is how you treat us? You're ungrateful, heartless. Margaret whispers in the background, please Amelia, don't abandon us. We need you. You know your father loves you, he just has his pride. Amelia feels like the walls are closing in. Every attempt to explain is twisted into betrayal. Every effort to find peace is turned into another guilt trip. The pressure builds day by day until she feels like she's standing at a cliff's edge. On one side is her family, demanding and manipulative, offering love only if she obeys. On the other side is Daniel, the life she dreams of, free, honest, but dangerous because it means letting go of everything she has known. The tension grows unbearable. She knows she cannot live in both worlds. She cannot be both the obedient daughter and the free woman. One choice will keep her trapped forever. The other will set her free but cost her the family she's clung to her whole life. One night, staring at her phone lit up with her father's angry texts, Amelia finally admits it to herself. She has to choose. And this time, she knows the choice must be her own. Richard refuses to walk Amelia down the aisle. The morning of her wedding, Amelia had still hoped, just a little, that her father might change his mind. She had pictured him standing by her side, guiding her toward Daniel, even if their relationship was broken. But instead, a short message arrived on her phone. Don't expect me there as your father. You've already chosen your path. I won't be part of it. Her chest ached as she read it, but she lifted her chin. Then I'll walk myself, she whispered. Daniel kissed her forehead gently when he saw her pale face. You don't need him. You've got me. And you've got yourself. The ceremony began in a bright garden filled with family, friends, and soft music. Amelia's dress sparkled in the sunlight as she stepped forward alone, steady, though her heart pounded. She had barely reached halfway when the sound of hurried footsteps broke the calm. Guests turned, murmuring. Richard had arrived after all, but not to walk her down the aisle. He marched in with Ethan close behind, their faces hard. The music faltered, whispers spreading quickly among the rows of guests. Amelia froze where she stood, clutching her bouquet tightly. Richard's voice boomed, silencing the crowd. Stop this farce. His eyes burned with fury as he pointed at Daniel, who stood at the altar waiting. This man doesn't love my daughter. He's using her. He's nothing but a leech who wants her money. Gasps erupted from the guests. Daniel's jaw clenched, but he didn't move. He kept his eyes fixed on Amelia, calm and steady, as if to tell her silently, I'm here. You're not alone. Amelia's legs trembled, but she steadied herself. For a moment, she felt the old fear rising. The urge to shrink, to obey, to let her father's voice drown her out. But then Daniel's words from nights before echoed in her mind. This isn't love. This is control. She took a slow step forward and lifted her voice so everyone could hear. No, Vath, you're wrong. The garden fell into silence. Richard blinked, startled that she dared to answer him in front of everyone. You say Daniel is using me, Amelia continued, her voice growing stronger. But it's you who has been using me. For years. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Amelia's hands shook, but she pressed on. I bought the car you drive. I paid the mortgage on the house you live in. I paid Ethan's tuition when you couldn't. I covered your debts when you lied and said the bills were bigger than they were. Every time you said family contribution, it was me, it was always me. She paused, her chest heaving, then looked at the shocked faces in front of her. I wasn't just your daughter. I was your provider. You drained me, and I let you because I thought it meant you loved me. But today, in front of everyone, I won't let you lie anymore. Daniel has never taken a penny from me. It's you who has taken everything. Gasps and whispers filled the air. Some guests stared at Richard with wide eyes. Others turned to Amelia with sympathy and admiration. Ethan stepped forward, his face red. That's not true. You're twisting everything. But Richard's silence gave him away. His mouth opened and closed, yet no words came. For the first time, his power was slipping. Daniel finally spoke, his voice calm but steady. He stepped to Amelia's side, placing his hand over hers. I've loved Amelia for who she is, not for what she has. And I will keep loving her, even if it means standing against the people who should have loved her first. Tears blurred Amelia's eyes, but she smiled, her heart lighter than it had felt in years. Richard's face turned pale, then red with anger. How dare you humiliate me in front of everyone, he spat. But no one rushed to defend him. The guests were no longer nodding at his words. They were shaking their heads, some whispering that Amelia had been brave, others muttering that Richard had gone too far. Margaret sat in the second row, her hands trembling in her lap, eyes downcast. For once, she couldn't hide behind silence. Amelia straightened her shoulders and faced her father. You wanted to shame Daniel, but the truth is, you've shamed yourself. I may be your daughter, but I'm no longer your bank. If you can't accept me and the man I love, then maybe you don't deserve a place in my life. Her voice rang clear, final. The officiant, unsure of what to do, hesitated, but Daniel squeezed Amelia's hand. Shall we? He whispered. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks, not of pain this time, but of release. Together, they walked the last steps to the altar, hand in hand, leaving Richard and Ethan standing powerless at the back. The ceremony continued, though the mood had changed. What had begun as a day shadowed by fear had turned into a day of truth. Amelia had finally spoken out, not just for herself, but for her future. And as she stood beside Daniel, exchanging vows with steady hands and a full heart, she knew this was the real beginning, not of a life tied down by her family's demands, but of one built on love, respect, and freedom. Behind her, Richard sat stiff and humiliated, the proud mask cracked. He had tried to control her one last time, but in front of everyone, Amelia had broken free. After the wedding, Amelia felt both free and heavy at the same time. Free because she had finally spoken her truth, but heavy because she knew her father would not forgive her easily. The next morning, as she sat at the kitchen table in her new home with Daniel, she stared at her laptop. Her accounts were still connected to her parents. Automatic payments for the mortgage, money transfers for family expenses, and extra funds Richard had convinced her to set aside for Ethan. Daniel placed a gentle hand on hers. It's time, Amelia, he said softly. She nodded. Her fingers trembled as she clicked through each account. One by one, she canceled the automatic transfers. One by one, she closed the ties that had drained her for years. It felt like cutting invisible chains wrapped around her chest. When it was done, she sat back in her chair, breathing deeply. It's over, she whispered. They won't control me through money anymore. But she knew she needed to make it clear, not just quietly disappear. So she sat down and wrote a letter. The words came slowly at first, then poured out like water that had been waiting too long to flow. Dad, Mom, and Ethan. I am no longer your provider. I am your daughter. But only if you respect me. From now on, I will not pay your debts, your bills, or your expenses. If you want a relationship with me, it must be built on love, not money. This is my final decision. Amelia. She sealed the letter and mailed it, her heart pounding as if she had just faced them again in person. For the first time in her life, Amelia had chosen herself. The days that followed felt lighter. She and Daniel began their married life without the constant drain of her family's demands. They laughed together while cooking, made plans for their future, and spoke of dreams Amelia had always been too tired or too afraid to imagine. She found herself smiling more, sleeping better, and breathing easier. Of course, her family did not take it well. Richard sent a furious message the moment he read the letter. Ungrateful child. You think you can walk away after everything we've done for you? You'll regret this. Ethan called too, his voice filled with anger. So that's it? You're cutting us off? Do you realize how much you owe us? We gave you everything. But Amelia stood firm. No, Ethan. I gave you everything. And I'm done. She ended the call before he could speak again. The hardest part was her mother. Margaret called quietly a week later, her voice trembling. Amelia, I miss you. Your father is angry, but I don't want to lose you. Tears welled in Amelia's eyes, but she stayed strong. Mom, I want a relationship with you too. But it has to be different now. No more guilt, no more money. Just respect. Can you do that? There was a long pause on the line. I'll try, Margaret whispered. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. As weeks passed, Amelia felt stronger in her boundaries. When Richard tried again to guilt her, she ignored his messages. When Ethan demanded money, she blocked his calls. Slowly, the noise faded, replaced by peace in her new life. One evening, sitting on the couch with Daniel, Amelia leaned against his shoulder and said, "For the first time, I feel like my life is mine." Daniel kissed the top of her head. "That's because it is. You chose yourself, and I'll always choose you too." Amelia closed her eyes and smiled. She knew the road ahead would not be simple. Her father's pride would keep him distant, Ethan's anger would linger, and her mother would always walk a fragile line between them. But none of that changed the truth. Amelia had finally broken free. She was no longer the golden child who paid for everything, no longer the daughter who lived for approval that never came. She was a woman who had chosen love, respect, and her own happiness. And this time she would never give that up again. Months later, Amelia and Daniel celebrate their first wedding anniversary. The evening is simple but full of joy. A quiet dinner at home, candles on the table, soft music playing in the background. They laugh as they look back on their first year together, the struggles, the small victories, and the love that carried them through. After dinner, Amelia notices an envelope in the mail pile. Her heart tightens when she sees her mother's handwriting on the front. For a moment, she hesitates, afraid it might be another plea for money, another reminder of the past. But when she opens it, she finds only a card. The words are short and gentle. "I miss my daughter. I hope one day your father understands." Amelia's eyes fill with tears. No guilt, no demands, just her mother's voice reaching out softly. It isn't full reconciliation, but it is something real, something honest. She presses the card to her chest and whispers, "Thank you, Mom." Daniel comes over and wraps his arm around her shoulders. "What did she say?" Amelia shows him the card, and he smiles. "That's a start. She's trying." Amelia nods, her heart warm but steady. She knows her father's pride may never bend, and Ethan may never forgive her for cutting off the money. But she also knows she made the right choice. Walking away from their control was the only way she could truly reclaim herself. As Daniel pours 2 glasses of wine, Amelia raises hers toward him. Her voice is quiet, almost carried away by the music, but firm with meaning. "For once," she says softly, looking into his eyes, "I feel free." They clink their glasses together, and Amelia smiles. It isn't just a toast to their anniversary. It's a toast to her freedom, her strength, and the life she had chosen at last. Hi friends. Thanks so much for sticking around till the end. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.